G'day guys, this video is about us building a new Tune 2 sign for a Christmas light display using some P5 panels. We're going to be going about setting up the Colorlight card and some FPP and xLights settings. So sit back and enjoy. So just continuing on with our Tune 2 sign build, we've got our basic frame mount made. We've sealed the marine ply backing that we use for our front of our panels. We've got our panels mounted onto it, and I will show you the back how we have started to hook everything up. So here we have the back of our P5 panel set up. We'll give you a quick walk through how we're going to connect things up, and hopefully you guys can follow along. Now this is just a bit of a mock-up. Cable management's hasn't been tidied up yet. So we'll start with probably the easy things. We've just got our power supplies mounted down. These are just temporary wired in to supply some power. We're supplying the 5 volts to our panels directly from our power supply. We're not fusing them in this sample. Some people fuse them. It's a debate for another day. So we're powering 4 panels, 1, 2, 3, 4 from this power supply, and the other 4 panels from this power supply. As you can see, pretty straightforward. The next we have got wired up is the data for the panels essentially. So here is our Colorlight card. This is receiving 5 volts from our power supply, and then from port 1 on our Colorlight card we have fed into the input on the first for the data via these ID16 cables into the first panel, and then it comes out of the first panel into the second panel, out of the second panel into the third panel, out of the third panel into the fourth panel. And we don't need a terminator or a termination or anything. So that's those 4 top panels. They're going to be receiving the data from output 1 of our Colorlight card. And for the bottom 4 panels, we're just using output 2. Now you can configure these around how you like. I've just done this way because the ID16 cables you get supplied are relatively short. So yeah, the bottom one's input to the bottom panel, output from that panel into the next one, out of that panel into the next one, out of that panel into that one, and again ends up there. Don't need a terminator. So we haven't plugged a Ethernet cables into anything yet. Before we get to that, we'll just talk about our Raspberry Pi. Now this is just a Pi. You need a 3B plus, essentially, or 3B. We're just running a Pi 4 because hey, that's what we had. Just got like a little fan on it. We have a Ethernet USB gigabit adapter. That's just into the USB into the top one there of our Pi. We have our Ethernet input on our Pi. We'll be using that later. So our next step will be to configure our panels is to connect a Cat6 cable into, it doesn't matter, into the Colorlight card. Get this around the right way, into the Colorlight card. Input. Now these are a switch, it doesn't matter which one you go into, and we're going to connect the other end of this cable into our computer, and we're going to first configure the Colorlight card to suit these panels, and then we'll configure the Raspberry Pi and then connect that one up after to control the Colorlight card. So first step is to configure our Colorlight card using the Colorlight software. Okay, we are going to show you how we are going to set up our Colorlight card first. I generally don't do software type installation
videos, so this could get a bit clumsy, so I'll warn you. So what we need to download is a piece of software called LeadyVision. I'm running 5.0. I think that's been fairly stable for people within the lighting community. Some other people might want a bit later run software, but this will be showing you LeadyVision 5.0. So as I mentioned, we have our Cat6 cable connected only to our Colorlight card. We haven't got Raspberry Pis or anything connected. We've downloaded and installed the LeadyVision software. You'll notice you'll get this screen which will pop up possibly. Depends on how it gets installed. So our first thing we need to do is select Control, left click, and then we go Screen Control. Then we'll need to just check these settings to the same as what yours are. We've got netcard, netcard settings from computer, use netcard. Then we need to go detect. Now, if your computer can connect to your card, you should say that it's detected, like such. So our next step then, we need to configure the LED screen window management. Now this is just this screen up here on your computer, so you can see what's going on. Now we are running 4 across by 2 panels high, so each one of those P5 panels is 64 pixels across by 32 down. So our width, we've got 4 panels, 4 times 64 will be 256. 6, and our height will be, seeing that each one is 32 panels and we're too high, so it'll be 64. So then we hit apply, and that should give us our screen. Now we can grab this and move it around. You'll notice that the X and the Y coordinates will move around wherever you move it on your desktop screen. Don't worry about that. This is our main one, is our, so we're 4 across, 256, and our height is 64. Now obviously if you had a different panel configuration set up, you would have to adjust these accordingly. So the next step is to click this, left click on the LED screen settings. So left click on that one. Okay, it may ask you for a password, which is 168. It may not. Our next step then is basically working our way across these menu items here. So we've got our slending card, here's our net card. It's got net card selected, so we'll jump into our screen settings. Now this is where it gets a bit funky. This is where a lot of people can get a little bit confused and stuff like that. Now your initial settings for your LeadyVision might be a little bit different. I've configured panels before on this computer, so things might be a little bit different. What's the next step I like to do is to load the screen settings. Now when I purchased my panels, I asked my vendor who sold them to send me the appropriate files. And you can load these files and it'll help with these chip type and scan rates and stuff like that, and I think it definitely makes setting up the panels a lot easier. So we can load a screen setting, browse, so wherever you've saved these files from your vendor. Now this was the RCVBP file which the vendor had sent to me, so we'll just, they're specific to the type of panels, so you can double click on that and which will load it. The next thing we need to do, you notice how it just then changed those settings on us because we loaded another file. We just need to adjust it. The main thing I think we needed was the parts in this grayed out area. So remember our width was 256 because we're 4 panels across and we're 2 panels high, so we 64. because remember each panel is 64 by 32. Now what we need to do is we need to save these settings here to our receiver. So we click save. It's going to give you a warning here because it doesn't like, obviously, this file here. We're not going to worry about that at the moment. We're going to come back and tweak that in a minute. So you can go send. And what you should get, we might just have to jump into receiver mappings first. Just jump into receiver mappings. We just want to make sure that this width and this height card information is correct. If it's not, it's just quite easily, because we're 4 panels across. That's 256 by our height, which would be 64. And again, we can save that to your receiver. And again, it's got it up there. Now, if you're running multiple Colorlight cards, this is where it's essentially, you configure that. We're only running one Colorlight card, so essentially we don't have to do anything else. So we can go back to our screen parameters. And again, it's telling us here that it doesn't like how, exceeding the recommended width for this setup. It's a bit of a weird thing here, and I don't fully understand panels, and no doubt other people out there will probably be able to comment. It's saying our width 64 by 16. Not sure, might be a glitch. Now I'm going to cut to a video and we'll just show you what's going on. So we've got our Colorlight card driving our panels and it looks terrible. One of the reasons too is also the camera is getting messed up by the refresh rate, but by the human eye you can sort of, it's all flickery, and the outside of our LED 1 circles are all fuzzy. So we're back to our LED screen settings. We want to fix up that horrible looking refresh rate which was happening on our panels. Now some people, this is probably totally the wrong way for doing this, but I found it works for me. It's giving us this warning that the settings that we've got for these performance settings, it's exceeding the parameters, so we need to do some adjustments. One of the ways that I've found to easily do the adjustments, and I don't know if this is correct or not, is to adjust this DCCLK setting. And I just basically play with one of these, so we'll go up a couple, and that hasn't brought us up enough. We will come up a few more, and it takes a little bit of trial and error. We'll try 17.9. We're within our specs there now, so that's good. We'll just try one less. Obviously it's a frequency. No, 15.6 doesn't cut it. We'll go back to 17.9. So everything's all good. Now obviously if you was using different panel setups, this would be different. Then we'll just save that to our receiver, because so we're not getting any warnings up now. Parameters saved. So this is after adjusting those DCLK, whatever settings they were on our panels. I think it looks pretty good. So that has got our Colorlight card configured. It matches our screen. Might be a bit tricky, but I've got, if you move the mouse over on your screen, you can actually, I'm trying to do this off a phone, cover points, the mouse on your screen will, move around within that LED 1 screen which was on your computer. So our next step will be to configure the FPP and xLights settings. So our next process is to configure our
Raspberry Pi running FPP, just sending appropriate data to our Colorlight card, the setup. Remember, we're running 4 across by 2. The top panels are going to be getting data from output 1 of the card, and the lower part of the panels are going to be getting it from output 2. Now, everyone might want to configure their panels different. This is just how we did ours. So what we have done is we've now disconnected the Cat6 cable, Ethernet cable from our laptop that was using to configure the Colorlight card. We're going to plug in our Ethernet adapter into, I've got it into the top port of the Raspberry Pi, and that's just plugged in. Now we're just going to need to connect an Ethernet cable, it can be either a Cat5 or a Cat6 I believe, into the Ethernet adapter of our Raspberry Pi, and we'll connect the end of that back into our computer or our laptop, so we can now configure this and hopefully get it to talk to the Colorlight card and make our panel light up really cool. Okay, so we've plugged our Falcon player into our computer. Now I've already configured Falcon player on this Raspberry Pi. There's lots of videos out there to do it. I'm not going to go around it, just probably a couple of little things. Just note that our address is 192.168.160. Obviously yours is going to be set up how you like it. So we don't have to do anything yet in FPP. I just like to get FPP up and running on it, and we can move forward from there. This date and time is incorrect because I haven't set it yet. So I like to jump in xLights now, and I've done a lot of this already, but we'll just go back over it. What we'd like to do is set up our panel in xLights. So what we first are going to do is add an Ethernet. So if you left click on the Ethernet, it'll ask you to set it up. We've already done that, so we'll just delete that second instance. So I just put it in there by mistake. So it'll ask you, to add an Ethernet 131. Then we can come into the controller setup screen within xLights. We can add our IP address of our Raspberry Pi. Remember, it was at 192.168.160. Yours will be different. The vendor information, we need to set this up, so we can come to FPP. If it was, because that's what we're using. We are using a LED panels, so we can do all that. We've got our universes counts and stuff like that. We can get that in a second. We can hit our save. One thing to be note, just make sure your channels per universe is 512. Panels run 512. Most of our other controls we set up for 510. So just make sure that it's on 512. Then we can get into our layout screen. So we just can do all this, and then we're going to configure FPP. So I've set up a matrix to suit our 4 across by 2 panels. With number of strings is our 64, because that's how many technically inputs we've got going into here. And we're 256 nodes across, because we're 4 across. Now, depends on your panel setup, it'll be different, but just remember each panel is our 64 across by 32 down. So we've gone 4 across to give us that 256, and we're 2 high, which gives us that 64. Starting location I'll set to top left, something I just generally do. So that's all looks pretty good. Just remember we're setting this up just in a test folder, so we're not too worried. We just set start channel to 1. Now I'm setting up this via E131. Some people use DPP protocol, etc. Each their own. This works for me. Hey, I could be wrong. I'm not an expert in this. I'm just walking you through what I did.
So, yep, we've got xLights can talk to our controller over our network because we have this little green button down there. We might just have to make sure our universe count is correct. Again, one of the steps some people miss up is this channels per universe. Make sure it's 512 because I think the default in xLights is 511. Now you could give this a name if you know if you wanted to. That's one step I forgot to do. So our next step is we want to upload our inputs and upload our outputs for this controller. So we just got left click, make sure our controller is selected, upload input. It says FPP input upload correct, upload output. It's showing the FPP output is complete. Now this won't work if you don't have the little green light there, or for some reason you have accidentally clicked output to lights. Make sure that bulb's clear, and we've got that little green light on there. So now we can jump into FPP. So open up my web browser, typed in my address for my Raspberry Pi for Falcon Pi, which I'm using to connect into this Colorlight card, and it was our 192.168.160, so we've still got a connection there. Now we want to jump into our input outputs, channel outputs, because we want to configure our screen settings or our LED panel settings. Notice it's pushed all this data across for us. That's the beauty of xLights. We can go to LED panels. Now I've set this 4 across because that's what we're running. Too high. There's simply drop down menus, pretty straightforward. I've selected the 64 by 32 1/8 scan because I'm running P5 outdoor panels. That information will be where you purchase them from. I believe 16th might be indoor. Depends on your panel setups. And obviously the size of them. The rest of just made sure top left has been selected. I've left the panel gamma the same. That start channel is 1. Remember that was from, this has just been set up in a test folder. It's got channel count. I'll like just do a double check. 49152, I believe, over in xLights. That's what we had. So that all looks pretty good to me. Back to our FPP. Sorry for flicking around. The next, connection type. Obviously, we're using a Colorlight card. This here I've got select for Ethernet connection 1. May have to change it to 0. Depends on which one you're plugged into. We can hit our save button. So it's it's been saved. Now we get to this LED panel layout screen. Now this can get a little bit confusing because there's lots of arrows and stuff like that. So generally this little arrow here means that your panels are facing up, which most people will be doing. 01. So this is the front view. So we've been working on our panels from the reverse, and now this is looking at our front view. So just remember, when I was looking at the back, you just got to reverse it essentially in your mind. So we've got output 1 on the Colorlight card. So remember, we've got our top panels on output 1. So these have just got drop down menus. Panel 1, select that. We've got panel 1 daisy chained into panel 2, which is then daisy chained into panel 3 and daisy chained to panel 4. Now the second row was using output 2 of the Colorlight card. Panel 1, daisy chained to panel 2, panel 3, panel 4. If you had a different configuration of how you've wired it up, you would set it up like that. Again, if you change anything, hit the save. And then we need to restart FPPD because we changed some settings when I was playing around, and we should be able to select that. And it'll restart, refreshes Falcon Player, and we're up and running there. So I believe that's all we need to do in FPP. what I like to do now is go to status control. We've still got our computer connect via Ethernet cable to our Raspberry Pi. We'll go display testing. This is where it's exciting. We can enable test mode, and fingers crossed, our panel will light up. I'm not going to video, but yeah, it's showing just the the RGB order on my panel. Now we still don't know 100% sure if we've done it right or wrong, because it's just spitting out a heap of channel data. Another quick test you can do is, because that's pretty bright on your eyes, you can do a nice RGB cycle too, and that just makes sure that you had your panels have got the correct order. If they're not, you can just go back into your channel outputs, back into your LED panels, and change that default panel color from GB to whatever it suits you. So I'm happy the way that it's configured up now. Our status control, just remember that we are in standalone mode at the moment. We're on version 4.6 for this FPP. I think there's version 5 coming up very shortly, and that might change. So you got all excited. That's all running really sweet. We wanted to now test. We want to make these panels do something cool. So we're going to run it directly, because we've still got our laptop and stuff connected up. We've got our panel set up in xLights. We'll just go File, New Sequence. We're just doing animation. We'll just click, click, click. You've all done this before. What I like to do now is to just set a bars across. Put it across there. We'll actually put some RGB. And then we'll go output to lights. And you might go, it's not working. Why am I getting these cool bars coming up? We'll just turn that off, because we want to put our, if we're running directly from our computer on xLights, we just need to go to FPP and put it to bridge mode, because it was in standalone mode for a Falcon player. So we'll just go to bridge mode, because we're just for testing purposes, we're just running direct from xLights, because we're too impatient and we want to see our panel light up some cool stuff. So we come down to here and we'll hit our output to lights, and we should having up coming up on your screen some really cool bars effects. And of course, you're not going to be able to help yourself. Oh, sorry. Then I like to run it, left to right, just to make sure you get your panel setups. Just to make sure. One trick I've found is just in panel outputs. In those left panels is this configurations here. If it's running back to front, just make sure you got that way there set up. You might just have to. You might have got a bit confused from when you've been looking at the front to the back, etc. So we've jumped into xLights. We're running a bars across. We're really happy with that, and of course, we've got to do the compulsory. We'll just turn the output lights off. We've got to put the butterfly effect on it, because hey, that's what we do. So yep, we're all happy. We've got output lights. It's getting a nice cool butterfly across. We've tested it with our bars, and we should be all cool. It's generally how most people run your Tune 2 signs. However, you're not running it in bridge mode a lot. You're not, so you can, but you're starting to push a lot of data out over your network. So a lot of people, those I had in bridge mode there, a lot of people probably running them in remote mode. So they have them sequences stored. They've generated their sequences, and then they're using in xLights. They've got a separate show player, which will just send a sync packet out to initiate the sequences which have been stored on the Falcon player on your Raspberry Pi. That is essentially how I've set my panels up, and I'll show you some videos of it running in a second. hopefully you've watched along okay. Hopefully I haven't lost you. I have set it up probably a little bit different to what some people do, in particular for those Colorlight cards. I'm not an expert. It works for me. So we've set up a couple of basic sequences for our new configured Tune 2 sign from xLights. Now we're just having a play around. Benefits probably over P5 compared to our previous P10 panels. Obviously we've got more pixels, so higher definition, so we can display a little bit more information and it's a bit crisper and clearer. You can also now use possibly your panels for another purposes. That's just something quickly we made up with some images, so you don't always have to just use it for a Tune 2 sign. You could sequence as part of your show or do anything like that. So we'll just run them through again. So there's just a basic Tune 2. Give the basic information out. It's nice and crisp and clear, nice and simple, so it won't distract from your display too much. You can put other information on it, like your display times, asking people not to enter your yard if you don't want to. We've just put a Facebook logo to our house Facebook page, and then you can incorporate anything you wish within xLights on your panels. Alright guys, hopefully you got some information out of this one. As I said, I'm just going to go back over and say I'm not sure if this is all the correct way for doing it. Hey, it works for me. Thanks for watching.